This video is sponsored by G Fuel. Go to them for any of your energy drink needs.
Yo, what is up, everyone? We are back here with Battle Frontier, and I'm here with Sierra. Hello, Sierra. How you going?
Hey, it's going pretty good. What about yourself?
Going pretty well. I mean, we've been seeing some pretty exciting games so far. I mean, I think the Lunala team was probably one of my favorites with like the Ditto and the Serena. I just thought it was like a really cool combination. But I'm actually really looking forward to our match. I mean, we're kind of getting down to the last couple of matches. I mean, we have this top 8, and then we have 2 top 4s, and then finals. So luckily, you guys will be having us here to cast over all those, so it should be fun. But yeah, what have been your favorite teams from the tournament so far? Like maybe like one thing you enjoyed. I know you're a big fan of Ditto, so
Yeah, you read my mind there, especially just seeing Ditto. It's something that I've been trying to play around with. Not to the same success, but it was still really cool to be able to see it piloted in such a fantastic way. And paired with Lunala too. I'm not the biggest Lunala fan, but it was still a really cool team composition, which is what I love about Series 10 so far because everything's new. Since there's no more Dynamax, it really gives the opportunity for all these different Pokemon to shine, and restricteds that we didn't really get to see too much in Series 8 now have a whole new place with the threat of Dynamax being gone.
absolutely. And I think I have some good news for you actually. In this upcoming matchup, we're going to actually have a Ditto on one of the teams as well, and another Serena. But we are going to go into Jeremy Rodriguez's team first, one of our 2 players here. He is running Zacian, Rillaboom, Thundurus, Landorus, Incineroar, and Urshifu Rapid Strike. So kind of similar to the team we saw Ashton run actually earlier in the tournament. Obviously a little bit different in terms of the sets. But the main thing that I think is really showing here is that these Asian teams are very strong in terms of their like control. I mean, this is a pretty standard team. You have obviously Zacian running kind of a standard, move set for Zacian, and then you kind of have Rillaboom, Incineroar with Fake Out support. And then you have support Thunders, obviously helping Zacian kind of do what it wants to. And then you have Urshifu, obviously kind of having that extra coverage to deal with stuff like Incineroar, which can give Zacian trouble. And then Landers to intimidate as well. So you're kind of seeing the almost standard Zacian team you'd kind of expect to do really well in these tournaments. But what are your thoughts on this?
I feel like this is just it's been such a standout for what we've seen in Series 10 so far. I mean, Zacian's just been such a dominant Pokemon, being able to get the attack boost on the switch in, and then just having some wonderful support. And Incineroar, Rillaboom have also been such fantastic standouts. It's just a really strong, consistent team, and with having that support Thundurus as well, it's just a really nice way to balance it out. And I'm excited to see the Landorus. I feel like Incineroar has been the main intimidator. So being able to see a Landorus as well is definitely fun. But as well, we have to feature Jeremy's opponent as well, Davide Paradu. So this is the team. I mean, we called out that Ditto. This is what I'm looking forward to. And this is another core that is definitely common. It is something that we've seen in Series 8, but of course with some new twists. So I'm talking about that Kyogre and that Tornadus. So Kyogre, Water Spout, being able to set the rain is just such a strong Pokemon. And even with Dynamax gone is still pretty strong, especially with Tornadus being able to help go against like some common threats of his, like with Rillaboom being able to hit it with the strong Hurricane and a Tailwind as well. And Tisserine is really nice. Like the Queenly Majesty being able to shut down the Grassy Glides is amazing. And I haven't seen this team composition with the Ditto in particular, so I'm really excited to see what role is going to be playing in this if it comes to this match.
Yeah, so what I also think is really cool just about this matchup in general is you have Jeremy, who's kind of like a very experienced seasoned player. He's like played in the game for a while. Kind of took a little bit of a break during like the 2020 season, but obviously after like, COVID, kept this aside, everything. But he's coming back in full force, and then we kind of have a bit of a kind of newer player, really trying to kind of break into the like upper echelon of like players. So it's like really cool to see. It's really cool to like see how they're actually going to be facing off. I mean, the team in general is really cool. I feel like with most Kyogre teams now, you can kind of expect Serena to be paired with most of them. Preventing Fake Out is very strong, and Tornoger's weakness is typically with Fake Out and Rillaboom, so it makes sense to protect yourself from Grassy Glide here. What I find really interesting is the Urshifu. I mean, typically with Urshifu, you're not usually seeing, Urshifu Dark too much, and like, especially not on a Kyogre team, I haven't seen that too much. So I actually am really interested to see how that works out as well. But what role do you think like the Ditto could maybe play in this matchup?
Honestly, I don't even know at this point. Like, Ditto, I feel like everybody's piloting it so differently to what they're really needing it to be, whether it's fantastic switch in or something. So I'm really excited to see. I mean, I feel like it does good against some of the Pokemon with like a stat raise, such as Zacian itself. So it'd be interesting to see if it's being utilized in that or a different way here.
Yeah.
So going over to that team selection, we are going to be watching from Jeremy's end here, which means we get a little sneak peek as well into the items that he is running. I feel like a couple of them be expected, the Citrus Berry on the Thunderous, but the Rillaboom instead with that Assault Vest, which is going to be really big. That means there's no Protect or anything on there. As well, Rocky Helmet on the Landorus, which is pretty cheeky.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically going to see kind of more or less what you'd expect here. I think that the one thing that can maybe present a problem for Jeremy is this Serena. So Serena paired with Tornogre is very, very strong. You're pretty much able to really thread in that water spout. Now, the one thing that really makes this a bit different, though, is the fact that the Kyogre is not Scarf. If the Kyogre was Scarf, I think it would actually present a little bit more of an issue as well because of how fast it'd be going. But because it's a little bit slower, it's actually a little bit easier to outspeed outside of Tailwind. The main thing that I think Jeremy has to prevent is a Kyogre getting a Tailwind set up, being able to attack, click Water Spout, and then swap in Serena to protect itself. And I think that's going to be the main thing to avoid. So I'm going to be really interested to see how the Rillaboom and Thunderous are really utilized to kind of, try and beat this team.
Of course, it is time to get into the match here. Jeremy versus Davide in our top 8 features. So a lot on the line here. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Davide is going to be starting with, if it is going to be that Tornadus, Kyogre, or something else. And we are going to see that Tornadus, but it's going to be paired next to the Serena to start pairing off against that Zacian and Rillaboom.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the lead we expected. I find it really interesting when people lead Serena and Tornadus. I feel like the best thing you can do in a lot of these situations is almost keep the Serena in the back, because you always have the consistent pressure of it swapping in, adding an extra layer of the mind game to it. But we're going to see actually Davide opting to lead it. So Jeremy is going to have a little bit of an advantage in this situation, potentially maybe wants to call out the swap coming from the Serena a bit early. I think from Davide's side, your plays are pretty safe here, potentially maybe going for a Tailwind and a U-turn, getting your Kyogre into position, or maybe just going for a triple axle or something into the Rillaboom and going for a Tailwind.
Yeah, of course. Plus, Jeremy's eyeing up that double into the Tornadus here, including the fake out. Obviously, being able to set up a Tailwind is really, really important. Oh, of course, no fake out. Series 10 is new to me. I'm going to figure this out. All the players are trying to get back into it. So that's, I don't know, my end. Serena going to be swapping out with that U-turn. So no more Queenly Majesty out on the field here. And of course, that Tornadus is given the opportunity to start setting things up a little bit for this Kyogre in the back.
Yeah, I think the intention of the fake out anyways was just to cover if the Kyogre swapped in, potentially trying to punish a greedy play of swapping out the Serena into Kyogre and going for a Tailwind to try and get yourself in position. Jeremy more so just covering for that. The Serena not really putting on that much pressure. We are going to see the Zacian just hit really, do a ton of damage in this Tornadus and just remove it. So it's kind of a interesting position, right? Because the Kyogre's in the position it wants to be. It's able to go for Water Spouts, and it's next to Serena. So it's kind of up to Jeremy to kind of play around that.
Of course. And with that Kyogre having the speed with the Tailwind is going to be super helpful, though it is going to be hitting for a lot of damage with the Water Spout. And of course, with the rain, these Pokemon do resist it as well. So having to play around that a little bit. Obviously, the Queenly Majesty making it so there's no Grassy Glide pressure is absolutely huge. I feel like that's one of the things that can really start taking down a Kyogre. And Serena's just been such a fantastic Pokemon paired with it. I don't think we really got to see that as much in Series 8, but it's definitely been a real fast staple of Series 10.
Well, I think the main problem with this situation is that you have very little to stop the Water Spout coming out. I mean, Serena can just target into the Rillaboom slot, and Kyogre can just go for a Water Spout. You're kind of relying on Zacian to actually live this move and potentially remove the Serena or stalling out Tailwind, but it's going to be very difficult to do. I mean, we're going to see the Protect come out here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we just see the Thunderous go down trying to take this hit.
Of course, the Zacian lives to see another day, but the water spout connecting with the Thunderous, not so fortunate. The critical hit, probably not actually effective in that, but that Thunderous is going to go down at triple axel, of course, hitting into that protect, and Kyogre just doing what it does best and just trying to put that pressure on.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you've kind of you're definitely not in the position you want to be. I guess you could say that much, right? Like at this point, Kyogre is pretty free to go for water spouts. Even worse, this Kyogre has a wave incense, so it's getting even more powerful water spouts out. So if your Zacian was even calced to live a normal water spout, like your calcs are pretty useless because now there's a wave incense on it. So even if it was bulky Zacian calc to take it, it would be having a lot of trouble taking any of these hits. At this point, Jeremy really just has to try and saw a Tailwind. In a way, this can also be a really difficult matchup, especially for the Zacian player, because he seems kind of lack speed control to really deal with opposing Tailwind. And I think we're really seeing where that comes into effect here. You know, like once Tornadus gets up Tailwind and Kyogre gets in, it can go for Water Spouts pretty uncontested.
Especially with it going down, meaning that Testreena gets to swap in for free. Urshifu just going to take the opportunity to protect to make sure it can weather the storm from Kyogre this turn. But this Zacian is going to take a hefty hit and is not going to make it. Zacian, another critical hit. That Zacian is going down, and Davide really in the driver's seat for this match.
Yeah, I mean, how tragic would it be if Kyogre wins another first? Because I feel like every first tournament we have for every single GS Cup format or like restricted format, Kyogre always wins, and we're seeing like a really strong showing from Kyogre right now, almost having like very little options to deal with it. I mean, Serena too is just absolutely insane here, really just protecting this Kyogre from taking anything. So I mean, Jeremy's really going to have to adjust, I think, for this game too, to not be put in like a really bad position.
I mean, there's a reason it always has such a strong showing, and it's a strong core, and we're going to see that as it comes out. Doesn't quite pick up either of the Pokemon here, but of course, this power up is going to come out. It is going to connect, and I mean, this Urshifu was almost done anyways. It didn't really need to do anything, so the Urshifu is going down all up to the Rillaboom knockoff, but it's just too little too late. This Kyogre is really able to just go through this team.
Yeah, so one thing I'm really interested to see actually, and something that could have potentially been used to punish Serena, was going for maybe a knockoff for like a U-turn into the Serena slot, turn 1 from Jeremy's end. Obviously, you're not going to be doing that much damage to the Kyogre when it comes in, but at least you're doing some damage to weaken those water spouts. But letting it go for full power water spouts, like in this case, we're just going to see it's absolutely going to destroy this Rillaboom here. You could have at least like maybe reduced the damage a little bit. Even a knockoff removing the wave incense would have been very helpful there, because maybe Zacian would have had a chance to live. It could have messed up the game plan a little bit from Davide's end. But I feel like this was like a perfect execution of what Davide wanted to do in this situation.
100%. Being able to just set up that Tailwind. There's sometimes Choice Scarf, Kyogre running around, but in this case, just set up the Tailwind. It goes down. You get the free switch into that Testreena to just support the Kyogre, and at that point there's very little that can be done. I mean, I feel like Rillaboom's a really good way to counter it, but it just gets shut down by that Queenly Majesty, and fake out pressure as well is just so important, and that gets shut down. Like, it's being able to turn off the priorities is just absolutely humongous, especially in this matchup where you're just going to be outsped.
Yeah, I think a really nuanced part of it is pretty much the Rillaboom not having access to Woodhammer and running knockoff instead is actually really, really problematic for it's just really problematic for Jeremy, because if you had Woodhammer, potentially you could punish a Serena swap with a Woodhammer and like potentially remove a Kyogre. But being forced to have Grassy Glide as your only move, you have very little options to actually shut down what pretty much, yeah, like pretty much any option to really just like, yeah, it's really difficult. Like from a player perspective, this would be like a nightmare matchup for me. Like I can't even think of like what I would do into this matchup. So
yeah, it's definitely a matchup that needs to be respected when team building, because unable to have a full answer to it just means that Kyogre is just going to run through the team. So Jeremy here, of course, since we're watching from his angle, we do get to see a look into what he's considering bringing. The same for, I mean, I feel like it has to be that one, because the Landorus and Center are not going to really fare up against a Kyogre anyway. So Jeremy's definitely put in a bit of a tricky situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real tough thing here is like you're pretty much like I feel like if you had a better matchup, like it would be a little bit more of a fair matchup. But I think like this is just one of those like things that happen in restricted formats. Sometimes there are certain teams that give you a lot of problems, right? For Zacian teams, Kyogre teams are actually like usually a big problem because there's very little to stop that water spout if they have Serena next to them. So not having Woodhammer and Rillaboom also really like just it's such a big impact here. And like we're gonna see Jeremy lock in with the same team, but there has to be a huge difference in the way the game was played to really like win, I think.
100%. But at least going into a game two, seeing what game plan Vita brought, I mean, it gives Jeremy the opportunity, even though there wasn't a Pokemon adjustment to switch something out, but huge adjustment on Davina's side as that
Oh
Ditto
no, is
is
it gonna
actually
copy
coming
the
out
Zacian?
into this slot across from the Zacian, which means this Ditto is now going to be its own Zacian.
Oh man. I mean the Zacian is just gonna get copied by this Ditto. I mean, you hate to see it, honestly. I mean, now Zacian putting on a ton of pressure. Like, you could just go for a Behemoth Blade here, or potentially just remove the opposing Zacian from Jeremy's end, then just get in your Kyogre and sweep. Same thing with the Rillaboom. Like, there's so much pressure coming from this Ditto here, and this Ditto is gonna like be insane. I mean, Choice Scarf 2 is basically just going to allow it to attack however it wants. So
I
this is a
mean,
really cool adjustment.
100%. And we are going to see that Behemoth Blade come out into Jeremy's realization as this Rillaboom is going to take a huge triple axle to start here, bringing it right down. It does get the opportunity, does get the opportunity to go for a knockoff onto the fake Zacian here, get rid of the Choice Scarf. So there isn't going to be that outspeeding, but still, that Ditto bringing it out on the first turn is just absolutely such a treat to see.
I mean, I guess you could say that it's a good turn maybe for Jeremy, but even then, like you've gotten your Rillaboom so chipped. I mean, when Tornadus and Kyogre come in together, how are you going to stop it? I feel like you really have to try and preserve this Rillaboom at this point because it's going to basically be a game where you just want to get rid of this Rillaboom, get in your Tornadus Kyogre, sweep through, similar to what we saw last time. And now that this Rillaboom's really chipped, it can't even take a water spout from Kyogre in the late game. And at this point, you're kind of at the mercy of Davide wanting to get up Tailwind. And like still, Behemoth Blade from Zacian is going to hit hard. So you can't really just disrespect it either.
100%. So Rillaboom just taking the opportunity to stay hidden in the back, nice and safe as Urshifu joins the party. Zacian taking the opportunity to try and set up a sub, but Ditto has other plans as it goes for the Behemoth Blade, breaks that. Serena, you turning out, getting a little bit of a chip there, breaking the Ash and being able to pivot into a Pokemon of Davide's choice here, which is going to be the Tornadus.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, as soon as the Tailwind goes up, I mean, how do you stop this Kyogre? It's the same thing, but like it was a smart adjustment from Davide because Jeremy's lead doesn't work versus an opposing Ditto if the Ditto is able to go for Behemoth Blade, potentially remove the Rillaboom early, right? Obviously this is already a difficult matchup, but having the pressure of Zacian just going there, clicking Behemoth Blade from Davide's side, and then getting in Kyogre to clean up everything, it's gonna be a huge issue.
100%. And Jeremy just opting to play it safe with Zacian on his end, and Davide going to take full opportunity of that and just get the Tailwind up. I mean, Kyogre's scary in Tailwind, but Zacian is also going to be pretty scary in the Tailwind. Jeremy firing back with a Surging Strikes here, just trying to do what he can to get rid of that imposter over there. And this Ditto's taking it pretty well. I mean, the one thing Ditto doesn't copy is the HP, but still lives pretty heavily, and it's just going to be even more of a nuisance with that Tailwind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, honestly, for not having as much HP, it took that Surging Strikes really well. I mean, on no bulk Zacian, typically it would do around like 50 to 60%. So kind of implies that Jeremy Zacian is actually very bulky here. You can almost tell by the HP stat as well, but that's just something to note that even the Ditto copying the form just took that hit so well. I mean, now I don't know if you can really stop a Hurricane Behemoth Blade. I mean, you have to try and stall out the Tailwind, but it's just putting on so much pressure on Jeremy here.
100%. And that's the thing with Jeremy not really having the priority moves with the Tisserina on Davide's side is really difficult because now everything just gets outsped. But Ditto opting to leave, and Kyogre rejoining the field here. So Davide looking to just start applying even more pressure than this Ditto. And Jeremy also going for that swap, bringing in the Thunderous. So Hurricane coming out, targeting into the Urshifu, going to bring it all the way down to Sash. I don't think Confusion, though, not that lucky, but with that Sash, does mean it gets the opportunity to go for another attack here into the Kyogre. I mean, Kyogre is going to take it pretty well, but the one thing is that the Water Spout won't be hitting for as much damage as they would before.
Yeah, so one interesting of note here is actually that the Kyogre is running Scald instead of Origin Pulse. So the single target Scald might actually be enough to still pick up the Thunderous here. I think that if it was the case where it had Origin Pulse, it would be more likely to miss the Thunderous KO here. Thunderous obviously pressuring with the Eerie Impulse, maybe forcing a Serena swap in, but even in that case, there's a potential for this Thunderous to live and just go for a Thunderbolt into Kyogre and maybe remove it. And that could actually put Jeremy in a sizable or like feasible position to win this game as opposed to like a really bad position. I mean, the Kyogre taking a little bit of chip doesn't seem bad, at face value, but it actually does play a big role in this game because your Kyogre health is very valuable.
Yeah, especially having an attack that bases off of the HP. It means that he doesn't have the ability to just go and press Water Spout every single turn, but Taunt coming out from the Thunderous, from the Tornadoes into the Thunderous, and Water Spout is going to be coming out, so still hitting for some good damage. Obviously not going to be picking up that KO, but maybe looking to get the KO at least onto the Urshifu. But this Thunderous now has the opportunity to respond, and it's going to do so with a Thunderbolt, and that Kyogre is going to go down. What proved so troublesome for Jeremy in the first game is finally rid of.
Yeah, I mean, getting rid of the Kyogre there is actually a really big deal. I mean, I think it makes the matchup much better. I mean, sure, there's still Serena there, right? The one thing that could actually be annoying here, even though it doesn't seem that way, is actually Tornadus. I mean, obviously not the premier offensive mon you'd normally expect on this team, but Hurricanes plus even like Serena attack could be annoying. The main good thing here is that you actually still have your Zacian in the back, which is pretty good at walling majority of these mons. But the Serena is carrying high jump kick, so it can also still hit Zacian for a decent amount of damage.
As well, with the range still up, that means Hurricane is going to be accurate. So it's not gambling on a move that not as accurate, but instead it's going to be accurate and is going to be hitting for a lot. So still a dangerous position and not something to be disrespected. Obviously, in past form, like in Series 8, there was always the pressure of the airstream, but Hurricane being able to hit for a lot too is super, super valuable. And Jeremy taking every last second to decide what the optimal move for this turn is.
Yeah, I think it was at the time. Okay, I was almost worried that there was going to be a timeout there, but I think the main thing that you're really going to see, the nuance thing that didn't seem to be a big deal, was the Kyogre before clicking Water Spout and not Scald. Had the Kyogre click Scald, I think it actually might have removed the Thunderous there, and it might have actually done a bit more work. But now it's a tough situation. I mean, you really do have to try and play around the Zacian there. We are going to see a double swap, which could potentially get punished, honestly, just by like a U-turn and a Hurricane here. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Jeremy got this right.
Well, Hurricane is going to come out, just cleaning up the KO on the Rillaboom here. And Serena is going to go for the triple axle. And, I mean, critical hit. Didn't really do anything at all.
I missed the third one, too.
And Zacian just healing all of that up, making it obsolete here. So really nice swap on that end.
Yeah, I mean, I still think you have a lot of good pressure. I mean, the main thing here is actually going to be trying to get the Ditto in. I think, Jeremy, here, what you do is you just keep the Serena slot pinned so that it can't go in for a swap to Zacian. If Ditto's forced to come in on the side of the Tornadus, you're actually in a really good spot, because then what's going to happen is you pretty much can't do much with like copying a Thunderous. But if you copy a Zacian, you're obviously going to be able to hit. So what's really important here is Davide getting in the Ditto on the Zacian side so that it can actually copy the Zacian for the late game.
Yeah, that's one of the really interesting things about Ditto, because it's even more important than ever where the Pokemon are lined up and then where you're targeting into to make sure your opponent can't capitalize off of the imposter ability. So Urshifu is going to be coming in here for the Thunderous and is going to take that taunt as well from the Tornadus. Zacian going off with the Behemoth Blade, just looking to try and make some stuff happen here. And a huge attack into this Tornadus and is able to pick up that KO.
Yeah, good night, Tornadus. Anyways, so he's going to U-turn right back into the Zacian. Going to be bringing in your own Zacian. I mean, hey, it could have been a worse turn, right? You needed to get the Zacian in to really, or the Ditto turning into Zacian. That's so confusing. Anyways, you get to bring the Ditto. That is going to be Zacian coming in front of the Zacian. So now you pressure a Behemoth Blade, right? That's such a weird mechanic to talk about too, because it's like, how do you say that? But when you now obviously we're going to see this arena come back in, it's going to pressure the Urshifu as well. The Urshifu actually being taunted is very important here because it can't protect from this arena, so potentially able to get 2 KOs here if it kind of falls into Davide's favor.
Yeah, what was shutting down a support Pokemon is now shutting off Urshifu's lifeline here. So definitely in a little bit of a weird situation on Jeremy's end there. But at least the one thing is that fake Zacian Ditto is pretty low. And there was that knock off earlier in the game from the Rillaboom. So no Scarf means it is going to be then a tie from these two. So you don't have to worry about it consistently going first, just sometimes.
Yeah, I guess since Ditto is almost like Scuff Zacian, we can call it Zamshian for this case. But yeah, we're gonna see the real Zacian actually go for a Behemoth Blade. It should connect right on the Zamshian, which is going to kill it. So, I mean, or not kill it, but knock it out. But, same concept. So it is out of the battle, unfortunately.
This is giving me throwbacks to the first Pokemon movie, all the clones fighting each other, and the realization coming out on top here, able to take down the Ditto Imposter as this Urshifu gets to start firing off some attacks into the arena, trying to just pick up this game to bring it to a 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, Davide is really going to have to think about how to adjust from this. I really do think, honestly, the Kyogre lead can very rarely go wrong. I mean, Tailwind U-turn seems really safe into a matchup like this, so I'd be kind of surprised to see them not going back to the Kyogre mode, really just trying to push that, and then maybe bringing in the Ditto later to copy the Zacian and then clean up with Kyogre and Zacian. But in this case, I mean, we're just going to see Jeremy really just bring it back. I mean, it played it incredibly well into an otherwise very difficult matchup. So we're going to be able to see a game 3 between both of them.
See, fantastic example of being able to bring the same for Pokemon, but being able to switch up lines of play to create a favorable position for yourself. And the fact that the Kyogre got chipped in so much on the swap in and Davide not really being able to capitalize off the Tailwind was so important for Jeremy here. And it'll be interesting to see too how Davide responds in this third match. We did see the Ditto that time around. Leading it was really, really cool, especially getting the slot right and copying the Zacian. But don't know if that's a strategy for the game 3 here.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like the Kyogre mode from game 1 can hardly go wrong, right? Like we saw how dominant it was, just able to put on pressure with water spouts. Like even just going for a U-turn, getting the Kyogre in, getting a Tailwind up, like it's just very safe. So I'd be very surprised to see some deviation from that. But I think for the most part too, what's really cool about this matchup is it's very oriented around how the players kind of play around each other's options. Like in this game, we kind of saw Jeremy play a lot better with his options, not taking risks by going for a fake out and a Queenly Majesty and playing a little bit more straightforward and being rewarded for it.
100%. And I mean, if that's how you have to be going into this matchup, then that is it. But what adjustment, other than not leading with the Ditto, do you think Davide's going to bring? Is it just going to be that Kyogre S, or going to be swapping it up a little bit?
I think potentially we could also see Incineroar here. I think Incineroar would actually be a pretty decent option as a 4th instead of Ditto. Mostly because you're just kind of focused around protecting your Kyogre, and your Kyogre is the main piece in this game plan. Incineroar also giving you a way to reduce Zacian's damage, potentially wasting some of its turns, and then also giving you extra fake out pressure to really enable your Kyogre in certain situations. So I think Incineroar could be good here. I think if Ditto is brought as a 4th as well, I think that's also okay. They're both pretty much, they're both good options. I don't think either of them is less good than the other, but Incineroar might be a bit more consistent with the tools it's offering in this matchup, and we haven't seen it yet, so Jeremy might not even prepare for it. I mean, Jeremy seemed to have very little for Incineroar besides Urshifu Rapid Strike.
Especially if he's going off of the information of the past couple of games to be really trying to figure out how to pivot and lead into this third game. It could be like a big switch up from Davide. It could be exactly what he needs to be trying to get that upper hand here.
Yeah, I think that the main thing that we're gonna probably see from just pretty much just from Davide is just kind of figuring out like I just want to get the Kyogre. Like I don't see any way that the Kyogre is not the centerpiece of the game plan there, because we saw that deviation from that, and that's where the loss came from, almost, because the Kyogre took damage. If Kyogre takes no damage, gets in, clicks water spot, it wins. So.
Yeah, especially there was still a couple turns of Tailwind when it was able to make the switch in. So it's tough, like Tailwinding and not having that free switch, but you really can't be risking that amount of damage onto there. But of course, there was still a different line of play. That Scald that you were talking about into the Thunderous would have allowed it to potentially stick around, being able to just be a single target pick at the KO. So maybe even recognizing that going into a third game could also be a really big piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah, finally getting into team preview here. I mean, we're going to see Jeremy probably lock in the same comp. I wouldn't be surprised. Yep, pretty much just instantly picking the same 4 Mons that he wanted to bring from the last time. Not too shocking. I mean, pretty much you want to utilize the Zacian, the Rillaboom, the Thunderous, and the Urshifu mode, really putting on pressure there. I mean, I feel like we're going to see the same Mons for both sides. Maybe just Incineroar, but I feel like for the most part, it's kind of a straightforward matchup. It's just completely based on play.
Yeah, well, neither an Incineroar or a Landorus would appreciate a Water Spout to the face, so not necessarily too surprised about that one. But I mean, there's always the potential for a swap out, but Incineroar loses so much utility not being able to safely go for fake outs. So it's just a really hard to bring here. And I feel like the 4 Pokemon that were brought were all had a place. So it's hard to get rid of one of them going into this match.
Yeah, I mean, we're really going to see Jeremy just thinking before locking in that 4th Mon. I mean, I don't really see too much of a use for Incineroar Landers here. I'm kind of expecting the Urshifu to stick, but you never know. It could be a last-second change to Incineroar to try and deal with the opposing Zacian a little bit better, or Zamshian, I guess, in this case. But yeah, I think we're just going to see the Urshifu lock in. Yeah, we're just going to see Jeremy lock in with safety. He was kind of keeping us on a cliffhanger there, really like, making us think he might change.
I mean, as well, maybe taking every last second to think about what he needs to be going into this third match. I mean, the first match we saw just how dominant that Kyogre was, really making sure to just think over the options. What went right in game 2? What went wrong in game 1? And what do I need to do to take this third game down? And here it is, big adjustment from Davide. We are going to be seeing that Tornadus next to the Cicerina to lead. So throwback to game 1. So it's all going to be about how Jeremy responds to this.
See, what I think could be really smart here from Jeremy's end is potentially trying to remove the Serena early, because it's going to put your Rillaboom in a really good position here. If you remove the Serena, the Rillaboom is way more effective in this matchup. It's going to be able to go for Grassy Glide. So I think instead of faking out, instead of Behemoth Blading into the Tornadus, I think maybe if you just double target into the Serena here, it could put you in a much better position.
I mean, yeah, it's such a perfect partner Pokemon for Kyogre. And if this Tornadus is going to be getting a Tailwind up anyways, that's what it wants to do. Yes, it still offers Hurricane pressure, but I'd argue that the pressure that Serena offers with that Queenly Majesty is more important to be trying to get it out here.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see Jeremy hesitate a little bit, but I think you should always be targeting in Serena here. I believe we see a knockout into, or knockoff rather, into the Serena, which is a pretty good play here. I mean, you're kind of just keeping the slot honest, but we are actually we had missed this the first game. The Serena actually went before the Zacian, but if there is a double target into the Serena, almost like I mentioned last time with a knockoff and like another move, this could be doing serious damage to Kyogre, potentially even removing it.
And here comes in the Kyogre. What's supposed to be a safe swap in looks like it's going to be very heavily punished here. Zacian with that Behemoth Blade. Coolest animation in the game with a big hit, bringing it down to half of its health. And that Rillaboom following up with the knockoff, trying to get the knockout. Not quite there, but this Kyogre it's not going to be able to do what it wants to do best with that water spout. And that is a humongous turn for Jeremy.
You honestly hate to see it. I mean, that Kyogre just took so much damage. Like, how do you even come back from that? I mean, like, yes, there are ways back into the game, but losing your Kyogre's health that early is so devastating, especially with the loss of the Wave Incense, because Scald doesn't even put on the pressure to kill Bulkization anymore. So now you're pretty much in a position where you have to hope for a burn if the Rillaboom doesn't already, remove you from the game. So at this point, the Kyogre is super pressured. We might see Jeremy opt for a little bit more of a safer play. You got a lot of ground that turn one, so maybe you want to play it a little bit more safer, making sure you're keeping that lead and putting yourself in a good position. Also, maybe calling out the Serena swap. So.
Yeah, no reason to be risking it when getting such a big lead. No swaps coming out. Vide going for a huge Hurricane, looking to get a little bit of revenge for that Kyogre there, and this Rillaboom is going to be going down. So Davide making up some ground. Scald connecting with the Zacian. No burn. Still picks up a lot of damage though, but the Zacian does get the opportunity to fire back with a Sacred Sword, and with no burn is going to be picking up that KO and take down that pesky restricted.
I mean, can we just appreciate how brave Davide was? He just clicked Hurricane in front of a Rillaboom that could Grassy Glide his Kyogre. If you lose your Kyogre there and get Behemoth bladed onto the Tornadus, you just lose the game. And now Ditto is coming in, turning into Zacian, pressuring both opposing Mons. I mean, this Ditto now is like sitting pretty here with the boost and still has a Choice Scarf on it.
Yeah, and there's no pressure from that Rillaboom with the knockoffs, and Davide made that big play in taking it out, which means this Ditto is going to be going fast and furious here. And I mean, this is what you love to see, two Zacians staring down each other. Davide lost a restricted, but has another one in his back pocket. I'm really excited to see if this Ditto can start making up some more ground.
Yeah, I mean, Ditto is strong, but Family's stronger here. I mean, Ditto just copying the opposing, Zacian here, really just putting on some serious pressure. At this point, I just don't see great swap-ins in terms of how you're going to deal with the Ditto. The main nice thing here from Jeremy is that Urshifu actually does resist, but we're going to see the Behemoth Blade. Is a Hurricane going to follow up into this Urshifu?
The Dollar Behemoth Blade, not enough to get into KO, but this Hurricane into the Urshifu is going to be cleaning it up. And now it's just this Thundurus and the real Zacian staring down against this absolutely terrifying imposter with this Tornadus.
Yeah, I mean, at this point too, this is very difficult to deal with, right? I mean, the Serena's still in the back, so you can actually potentially block just a straight up Thunder Wave, maybe having the hope for a Thunderbolt Paralysis here and going for a Protect just to try and get this Ditto to be slower than your Zacian. But at this point, I think it's just a lot to ask from Jeremy's end. I mean, you just had two really devastating turns from a really good position here. But we actually are going to see the Tornado swap out into Serena here, potentially being able to block a Thunder Wave. Yeah, and now we're going to actually see the Thunder Wave getting blocked by Queenly Majesty as well. So Ditto's going to be able to go for a Behemoth Blade here, pretty much just knocking out the opposing Zacian. At this point, I don't know how Jeremy comes back from here. I mean, you just lost your Zacian. That was your way to win the game. Yeah, I think the main thing here too is actually going to be seeing how the Thundurus is maybe able to get a paralysis here to win the game. But even then, I don't think it's possible. I think Jeremy just playing it out to be just to be respectful, kind of play out the game, see, is this going to work out? I think at this point, we kind of know that Davide kind of has the advantage here, but we're going to see Davide, as we had mentioned before, a bit of a newer player, maybe like less accomplished player than Jeremy, just being able to beat Jeremy here, which is absolutely insane. I mean, Jeremy obviously playing really well. This is a bit of a tough matchup as well, but super good matchup in some regards to Davide as well. Being able to get the Kyogre in, utilize the Serena and the Ditto. So at this point, I think we're just going to see the Zacian just come out here, remove the Thundurus, and that should be pretty much the wrap of the game. So yeah, I think this was a really interesting matchup. So just so you guys know, because we're probably gonna be cutting back to like my beautiful face. Sierra disconnected, so I kind of just covered the last turn. Oh, there she is. But you can't like see her on the broadcast yet. But yeah, pretty much that matchup. I think we really just saw how strong Tornadus and Kyogre was. Really just being able to put on water spout pressure. So, and hello, Sierra, welcome back.
What 10 seconds sum of the last part of the game here. I was on the edge of my seat and cuts out at the worst second, but I have to know, did Ditto do it?
So Ditto actually did do it. Family is stronger, so Ditto won. Yep.
Let's go.
At this point, yeah, but at this point, I mean, we kind of just saw a really cool matchup play out. I mean, we're gonna see Kyogre do well again. Kyogre does well like every single GS Cup tournament. I think it's just like at this point, it's just kind of like just how the VGC story goes. The first tournament always has like a really strong Kyogre team that either makes it to finals or does super well. So we are going to be seeing our top 4 match coming up soon. So we will be getting that back to you shortly. But do you have any finishing thoughts on the match?
No, let's start getting into the next one so I can reset my internet and not miss another.
Ooh, that was
I don't want to miss any more of those shenanigans.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Well, we will be cutting to break. We will be back. And thank you guys, all of you who are here. Thank you again to G Fuel for also sponsoring the stream as well. Definitely appreciate it. And we will see you guys very shortly.